Shalom to everyone. My name is Rabbi Howard Wolk. I'm the community chaplain with Jewish Family Service. I work closely with Faith Presbyterian Hospice in terms of visiting patients, and I'm honored that each month they ask me to share a thought with you. I hope this finds all of you well and you and your families healthy. We're now past 10 months of the COVID virus pandemic, and hopefully many of you have received your vaccination, at least the first one, and that's getting us closer to an end to the pandemic and hopefully a restoration of our lives to normalcy. I guess we're all looking forward to at least edging back into the way life was, now coming up to almost a year. Um, Certainly, one of the feelings that people have experienced during these past 10 months or so is one of loneliness, of abandonment. And, usually loneliness, I would say, is something that we most often associate with people who perhaps are homeless. We see people, unfortunately, under highways asking for money, etc., or people who need the facilities of shelters for the homeless. And so we always, I think, in our minds, paint a mental picture of someone who's lonely as someone who doesn't have a family, is alone. But the pandemic has really taught us painfully that even someone who may have a robust family, someone who may live in a large and comfortable home, can also experience loneliness. Someone who may be a widow or a widower, someone who cannot experience visits from family members, no matter how comfortable the setting may be, yet they're experiencing trauma in many cases of loneliness. And really, there we have a precedent for it going back centuries. In the synagogue services now, we're in the middle of reading the book of Exodus, the section that deals with the 10 plagues that God visited upon the Egyptians for their enslavement of the Israelites, for their throwing Hebrew male children into the Nile River. And so the ninth plague that's brought upon the Egyptians is the plague of darkness. And the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the Bible tells us that the Egyptians were petrified from the darkness. No one moved for 3 days. So the question is, why such a reaction on their part? They had experienced 8 previous plagues. Blood, all their waters turned into blood, frogs, pestilence, they had seen their animals die. But this seemed to have a different effect on the Egyptians. They were literally frozen in their places, couldn't move for 3 days. So one of the rabbis explains that, we often, I think of that plague as somehow a solar eclipse. There was no light for the Egyptians. But he points out that the word sun doesn't appear in the Bible's description of the plague. And so he offers a novel interpretation. And he says that God caused a membrane to grow over the eyes of the Egyptians. They developed, if you will, extreme cataracts, and they couldn't see. And therefore, the darkness they experienced was not the darkness of nighttime. You go out on a country road and there are no stars out, there's no moon, it's pitch black. That was not the darkness they experienced. They, however, experienced the darkness of a blind person. God forbid someone who's blind does not see darkness, they see nothing. That was the darkness the Egyptians experienced. They experienced the darkness of someone who sees nothing. That was a unique experience for them. And therefore, even though they may have been in rooms with family members, It was a darkness and a loneliness they were experiencing by themselves. That's what it made it so terrifying. That's why they couldn't move from their seats or their beds. And to a certain extent, that's what people are experiencing now, not in the physical sense, but in the emotional, psychological, and spiritual sense. They're experiencing loneliness, abandonment. They feel secluded from friends and family members. So, as chaplains, as nurses, as physicians, people who understand the importance of every human being, it really makes our responsibility during this pandemic even greater to reach out to others, whether it's someone who lives near us, whether it's someone we know. Maybe we're not seeing them as a patient, but if you know of someone who lives alone, difficult for them to get out, important to make the extra phone call to assure that they don't feel lonely during this time. And God willing, in the weeks and few months ahead, we will see an end to this pandemic. Most of us, I think, are social beings. We look forward to being together with people. When that's denied us, we often have feelings of loneliness. So please be well, stay healthy, and thank you very much for your attention. Shalom.